Beastly Besties, welcome back to the channel. So I know over on Instagram we did hold the vote that you would like to see these done in the future on video, and I absolutely do plan to do that. As of right now, I have a couple more that I'm going to be filming without video, just because I need to get a little more comfortable on camera, but also it's a lot faster for me to film these at the moment, to just record them and then go back, because I am experiencing a little bit of higher than normal order volume at the moment, because normally my Halloween season, which is literally the busiest season for me, it starts in the beginning of October / the end of September, but it actually started all the way back in August this year. So I've been really busy, so right now I'm just getting these recorded with audio, and then in the future I will be doing these on video for you guys. So where we left off last time was I was talking about Artist Alley and my start in selling at conventions, and I was talking a little bit about the first two conventions that I ever did, and I explained to you the SetsuCon, which was my first convention, and how I was a little bit unprepared. My display was very, very chaotic, was not polished in any form, and I was still kind of learning the ropes. After that, the second convention that I went to was KatsuCon, and this is the time where KatsuCon wasn't as big as it is currently. This was back in 2013, so it was a little bit smaller. However, it was huge. I had actually never attended KatsuCon before, so I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't realize how large of a convention this was. So I was pretty much diving in headfirst into my first Artist Alley experience, and I didn't do that well. I'll put a picture for you guys up here, which will show you guys my setup for KatsuCon. It's a little more polished than it was for SetsuCon. You can see it's a little bit better displayed. I work on my packaging just a little bit. I had only 2 weeks in between this convention, so I had 2 weeks between SetsuCon and KatsuCon where I had to polish my display, and I had to get a ton of product made, which I highly do not recommend doing. If you are a brand new artist to Artist Alley, give yourself time in between shows so that you can properly restock and so that you can properly reflect on your display and, how you did at the convention. I will tell you guys, I only made a total of $800 at this convention, which might sound fantastic, but when you put into consideration the cost of the booth, and I don't remember what it was back then, but I want to say it was probably around $200 or so, plus the cost of the hotel, which was probably $500, you're talking $700 in cost, and that's before food, before travel, so I did not make a profit at this show. If anything, I might have broken even, but I really highly doubt that. So it was not really a disaster. Like, I can tell you at the time, I was absolutely ecstatic to have made $800 at a convention. I thought I was doing fantastic. But nowadays, if I made that much at a convention, I would wonder why I even attended, because I'm not covering my costs, I'm not making a profit, and I'm really not justifying my time to be there where I could be at home working on orders or, producing new products to add to my line. So just kind of some of the mistakes that I had made were in my setup. I didn't have a clear focus about the product that I was selling. I had things all over the place. And the big thing is that I was selling my products way too cheaply. And I know that it's counterintuitive. You think if your price is low that you're going to sell more, but I didn't. I was selling my small horns at $5, which when I did the math was only probably like $1 or so over the cost to make it, with time and labor included. And that's not really paying myself as an artist to produce work. So I think that when I was devaluing my work, I was making my products seem cheap. And I will say that at the time, the horns weren't as high a quality as they are currently, because I did do some changes. I didn't have as many styles, which having a variety can be a good and bad thing, but having a variety does lead the eye to your booth and does help with sales. However, having a lack of variety and having an inconsistent display will absolutely kill sales. So that was the first mistake that I know that I absolutely did, is that I was undervaluing myself and my product, making my product seem cheap. That is something you don't want to do. Make sure you're covering your costs and make sure you're valuing yourself, valuing your time, and valuing your labor when you're making your product. If you sell too cheaply, you become cheap. The other issue, again, we talked about the display, we talked about that, but I was not being an active seller. So I'm not telling you to stand in the aisles, do that carnival barking thing that literally everyone hates, but I was also a little shy and a little timid. I wouldn't make eye contact with my customers. Not saying you should stare them in the eyes, I'm just saying I wouldn't really look up. I was sketching or I was doing stuff at the time where I just wasn't really paying attention to the people looking at my booth. And something that I've learned to do over the course of my Artist Alley experience or over my vending experience is to be a slightly more active seller. Now, what that means is I will just kind of give people a polite smile as they walk past, or if I'm on my phone, I'll just look up, acknowledge someone saying like, hi, but I'm not, going out there and like purposefully interacting with customers. I know some people will say that's wrong, but something that I've learned from selling at conventions is a lot of people in the convention circuit do tend to have a little bit more social anxiety. So it can become very overwhelming if you're got this like, poppy, like bubbly personality and you're just like throwing yourself onto your customer. I do recommend to kind of scale it back just a little bit in the convention scene and just, give them a polite nod, let them know, hi, I'm here if you have any questions. But, don't throw yourself upon them. Don't be a carnival barker when I bring that up, a carnival barker is someone who's like actively got this spiel that they're just like repeatedly saying to try to bring in their customers. And I've seen this work very, very, very rarely. You have to have like the perfect tactic to make that work. So someone that I was with, I was sitting next to at a convention one time that was an active seller, was not necessarily carnival barking, but he had a really great technique for drawing in customers. And what he would do is he would look at the costume that they're wearing, because again, this is an anime convention, so he's looking at their costume that they're wearing, and he'd be like, hey, I love your, let's say, Spider-Man costume. I've got this Spider-Man artwork over here I think you'd be interested in, and I'm giving a discount to all the Spider-Man cosplayers. So I don't believe he actually ever had a discount because his price was always lower for every single person. Like, he'd find a reason that they would get this discount, quote unquote, for every one of his artworks. And it was kind of a tactic that kind of engaged the people and made them seem like they're getting a deal. Now, I don't know how ethical that is, considering, he'd be making up these sales on the fly. I don't know how ethical that is. However, it was an interesting technique of active selling that I thought was pretty interesting. I just said interesting twice. Sorry, you guys. It was an interesting way of doing it that I thought was unique. So that's just like the first part of, active selling. Another thing is just making sure if you're a 2D artist and you're going to be doing sketching or you're going to be working on commissions at the time when you're sitting behind your booth, just make sure that you're acknowledging your customers. I can't tell you guys how many times I have personally been steered away from purchasing something at someone's booth because they didn't acknowledge I was there. It's really disheartening, and I'm not the type of person, I'm a little shy, I've got a little bit of anxiety myself, and I'm not the type of person that's going to be like, hey, excuse me, can I get your attention, hi, when I want to buy your product. The other big thing, and this was not a mistake I ever had, but this is one thing I see all the time, make sure you're putting price signs on your booth. I see this a lot where tables have no pricing listed. Or if you have pricing, make sure it's large, make sure it's clear, make sure it's readable. I've seen a lot of people put a price list up in a random corner of their booth with a ton of product around, and you just miss the price list. You don't see it. Or I've seen people just forget to put prices in general, and that is really tough because, again, like I was saying, a lot of people are not inclined to ask what the price is. There's something kind of ingrained in us that if you have to ask the price, it's too expensive, so we just assume that we don't want to know what the price is. Or people are just shy and they're afraid to ask. So, try to make sure you're being outgoing and friendly without being overly outgoing. And then also make sure that your prices are listed so that if someone does not want to interact with you, they can have a full shopping experience without having to talk to you. Um, those are kind of big tips, and I know that I'm probably going to get some feedback that people don't like these tips, but let me tell you, this has really helped me go from selling like $800 at a convention to selling thousands of dollars at a convention. I don't want to say exact numbers, but trust me, it is much, much, much higher than when I started out because I have learned better selling techniques and better display techniques. So, those are my two big, well, I said a couple things, 3 or 4 big techniques that have made my booth experience a lot better. But also, I just want to say that engaging your following also helps. So if you're an artist and you're not actively promoting yourself via an online store or via social media, you're really missing out because people will look for you if they are a fan of you. So, hi guys from Instagram. Hello everybody from Facebook who is listening to this podcast. I love you guys, but you are part of my community. And you'll know that when I'm going to a show, I try to engage you guys as much as possible in my community to let you know I'm going to be there, to let you know that, I'm happy to meet you guys, and to kind of let everyone know that I'm going to be at this show with these items. Something that I personally do to try to engage some of the people who are not actively following me when I'm going to a convention is I utilize social media and I utilize paid advertisements centered around the convention. So, one of my big techniques is to make a paid social media post, so an Instagram post that I pay for advertising, and I target the 5-mile radius of the convention using convention specific tags the day before the convention and leading through the convention to the day after, so that people are getting targeted ads about my product while they're in the geographic location of the convention with those interests. That way, you're going to be directly targeting the people that are actively at the convention who may be interested in your products. They can then come and look for your booth because you should be putting your booth information on there as well. And they can come find you at your booth because they've seen your products on social media. So that's just, again, utilizing social media to your advantage is extremely important. It's also really good to interact with your followers. You're not going to know what your followers would like to see from you unless you're interacting with them. So I very, very often will reach out to my followers with a new product and go, hey guys, what do you think about this? Is it something you want to see me go forward with? Is it something that you want some changes to? Like, what do you think about this new product? Or how do you think I can improve the products that I'm selling you? What do you like? What do you dislike? What would you like to see more of? So using that crowdsourcing and engaging your social media following is going to be so much more beneficial for you as an artist, as well as selling in the artist alley, because you are building your fan base. Going back to that as well, we need to talk about having an online store. So a lot of the artists that I see at Artist Alley do not have an online store or an online presence. And that makes it really hard to translate the convention fan base that you are building to a sustainable income. Because if you are not selling online, you are most likely not going to be making it as a professional artist. You can work as a freelancer, things like that, but if you want a steady income, you need to make sure that you have an online web store platform. This could be Etsy, but I highly recommend that you actually set up your own website. When you are relying on other sales platforms, what's going to happen is they're taking a cut of your profit, and they have the ability to shut down your store at any time and shut down your livelihood. So when you're in control of your own store and your own website, you're in control of your own livelihood. And this is incredibly important, to not put all of your control into one person. Make sure that you have control of your store. Also, make sure you have the web store, because people don't always make the purchase at the show. A lot of times I'm hesitant to buy things at the show because I have a budget for food, I have a budget for like accommodations and lodging and going to different events, things like that. But I don't necessarily have a budget to buy something that's a little on the higher price range, or if I don't want to carry prints home because I'm going home on a train or something like that, it's kind of hard to find those products afterwards. If you don't have an online store, you're going to lose out on that business. So it's really important to make sure you have an online presence, that you have business cards and things like that, that people can come find you later after the show, because they will. You will see a bump in sales after a show if you've properly set up your online presence. So this is really important. I think that's about it for like my main points. You really need to make sure you have a good social media presence. I kind of talked about, Katsucon, and again, I didn't have the good social media presence yet. I had just barely started my Instagram account at this point. And I think I was still using my Instagram account as a personal account. And I just barely started putting some non-personal things up. Like, I just barely started putting some photos of my horns. They weren't great. I didn't have really good model shots, anything like that. So I was not doing good on that front. I was using an Etsy store with kind of outdated pictures that weren't very updated. So I didn't see the jump in sales afterwards either, because I hadn't properly marketed myself. And that's something that I've kind of prided myself on since then, is working on my branding and my online presence. So that would be my next steps. So thank you guys so much for joining me on my second part to the Artist Alley podcast. I think the next one I'm going to actually talk about is staying motivated as a full-time artist, because it's rough out there. And I think that we could use a little bit of pep talk about staying motivated and staying creative in this crazy, crazy world. So if you like this podcast, please give me a like. You can leave your comments below. I'll try to answer any questions you have. And as always, if you enjoy my channel, please subscribe for further content just like this. Have a great day. Bye, guys.